Good afternoon, everybody, and a really warm welcome to you all to our second equally inclusive Disability Confident event. My name is Joanne Van. I am one of the integration leads for Seetec Plus, operating out of the Southwest, and I will be your host for today. So thank you very much for joining me. So coming up today, we have an overview of the Disability Confidence Scheme and the 3 levels within it, how to embed disability confident commitments, how to recruit a diverse workforce, the benefits of being disability confident, how to transform organisational culture to be more inclusive, what are reasonable adjustments and access to work, and we'll also be talking about the launch of our National Careers Service. You'll notice that I'm reading through the slides that are on the screen, and we're making sure that we are inclusive for all within this event. So all slides and PowerPoints and presentations where they have writing will be read out. So thank you again for joining. We'd love to have your input in today's session. So do send us your questions for the panel. You can do that either by using the Facebook comments. You can WhatsApp us on 01872 228844. Or you can leave any comments in the chat. Later on, we'll be joined by Geraldine Scott-Smith, our Digital Marketing Manager, who will be monitoring those questions we receive and putting them forward to our panel of speakers today. So part of today, we're also asking everyone to think of any pledges that they can make moving forward, and we'd love for you to share these with us. So do feel free to add these and any comments in the chat. And as well, also being inclusive, we'll make sure that we are reading out all the comments in the chat for everybody. Seetec Plus can also support you with your disability confident and recruitment journey. If you'd like us to make contact to discuss your needs, you can either pop your email in the chat and starting that with @JaneForrest with 2 R's, or send it via WhatsApp and we will be in touch. Okay, so the current economic situation is making recruitment challenging for many employers, and this is something that we hear day in and day out. Our disability confident events are aimed at helping employers to recruit from the wider talent pool and provide advice and guidance to help employers benefit from a more inclusive recruitment practices. So I'd like to invite and welcome our first speaker, John Beach, who is the Disability Employment Advisor with Job Centre Plus. So welcome, John. John is here today. Hello, John. John is here today to give us an overview of the Disability Confidence Scheme and the 3 levels of awards. So over to you, John.
Hi, chaps. Good to be out there. I'm on TV. It's amazing. So, disability confidence. Let me just bring that up for you. So the Disability Confidence Scheme is about getting employers to think differently about disability and to take action to attract, recruit and retain disabled workers. It is a voluntary, free scheme that's been developed by employers and disabled people's representatives. It supports the government's ambition to see 1 million more disabled people in employment by 2027. It was developed by a ministerial task force of employers, disabled organisations and disabled people's-led organisations. And their recommendations was for a 3-level scheme, taking employers on a disability confident journey. It should then be achievable for all employers, small, medium and large, to attain this. Okay. Businesses that recruit people with disabilities and health conditions benefit just as much as the people they employ. It's also a clear signal to your customers, colleagues and the wider world that you value disabled people within your organisation and you're on the road to disability confidence. Disability confidence gives you the skills, tools and confidence you need to recruit disabled people and retain and support them as they progress in their careers. The process of signing up to Disability Confidence Scheme can help you identify good practices and perhaps some areas for improvement too. This combination of a better recruitment and enhanced engagement can be of huge benefits to employers and the wider community. Okay, so the 3 levels of disability confident is level 1, disability confident committed. And that involves the person signing up with your commitment and starting your journey. And that's all it is, just the first rung of a ladder, first idea of you being involved, being aware, and starting your first foray into disability confidence. Level 2 is a disability confident employer. And that involves assessing your business against the 2 themes of getting the right people for your business and keeping and developing your people. Level 3 is a disability confident leader. In this case, Seetec Plus. And that involves you being a lot more involved as being a champion within your local and business communities, and really looking at developing contacts, developing other businesses, and sort of bringing them forward as well, and acting as a leader, acting as somebody who's out there being evangelical about disability confident. And that's just a quick overview for you to mull over, and I'll hand on to the next person to carry that forward on the next subject.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for doing that. And so to look at Disability Confident Level 1 in a little bit more detail, could I please welcome Andrea Malalou, who is Director of People Operations for Sustrans. So welcome, Andrea. Sustrans are a charity encouraging active travel, such as cycling, walking, scootering, maybe, among schools, employers and local authorities. And Sustrans is a Level 1 disability confident committed employer. So thank you so much for joining us today. So I have some questions for you, Andrea. Why did your organisation decide to join the Disability Confidence Scheme in the first place?
A couple of reasons, really. If I'm honest, I think we were finding it harder to recruit. Lots of organisations are, and so we just needed to make sure that we were looking everywhere for talent. So we were just making sure that we were kind of looking in all the talent pools available. As you said in your introduction as well, Sustrans is an organisation which promotes active travel. So, and that means that there are some groups in society that are disproportionately disadvantaged by car usage. And also there are groups that have less opportunities to benefit from active travel. And in working with those communities and with those groups, it's really important that we have a workforce that reflects the communities that we serve. So we really needed to do something to increase the numbers of people with disabilities in our organisation. And I think the other thing was that I think we just felt it was the right thing to do. So it's a very sort of socially conscious organisation. The colleagues are very values-led. And they felt it was really important that we work towards an organisation that, you know, promotes equity, diversity and inclusion, really. It just felt like the right thing to do.
That's great to hear that the colleagues were obviously on board from the start. So fantastic. So what steps did you take to join the Disability Confidence Scheme?
It was super easy. So it was actually my resource manager that flagged it to me. She had worked with Seetec before, actually, and Seetec were fantastic actually in sort of focusing us and helping us, giving us advice. But it was really so easy. You know, we sort of all we had to do was kind of go on the website and register. With some support from Seetec and just kind of sort of thinking through what it was that we wanted to achieve. And then really quickly we got our Level 1 badge, which was incredibly important for us because we could use it in our sort of in our recruitment campaigns. We've put it on the website, and it just demonstrated reflected externally that we were the kind of organisation that were inclusive and that we would welcome and value applications from disabled candidates, and also gave confidence, I think, to our colleagues internally as well, that we were actively working on this and we're trying to do something about it.
Fantastic. So what are your plans now to make sure that you really embed these Level 1 commitments into your organisation?
Yeah, okay. So look, it's early doors for us. We've just sort of started this journey. But I think that I suppose the big thing that we did quite quickly was introduce guaranteed interviews for disabled people. And that's been Fantastic, actually. I mean, we've been working with it for the past quarter, but already 13% of our offers for new jobs have come from people with disability. So there's loads more that we can do. It still doesn't reflect the demographics of the wider population, but it is a big improvement. We've reviewed the accessibility of our website, and we've just been really clear with candidates that we offer alternative ways of accessing and engaging with the application process. But we have got lots more work to do. So we need to do a lot more work on building line manager capability. They can really sabotage, I think, the work that we do. So we need to do a whole raft of work around giving them confidence and capability to be able to sort of recruit in the right way, I suppose, and support people with disabilities. And we are currently kind of auditing our colleague life cycle with, I guess, an inclusive lens, because there are lots of opportunities we have to tweak and change and just make it more conducive to people with disabilities.
That's fantastic to hear, the real commitments that you're already making and the difference that's made in terms of what you were saying about the percentage increase over the last quarter. That's fantastic. So how have you gone about promoting the disability confident commitments so that you can attract and retain disabled people in your organisation?
Yeah, well, in terms of internally, we did it every way that we possibly can. We just kind of flooded the airwaves with celebrating the fact that we were now disability committed. We're trying to do sort of more with social media as well, so sort of tell colleague stories around it. So we've just sort of starting that, but so there's more work planned around that. And we've sort of sought to advertise in sort of, more diverse job boards to attract, different candidates. Again, in terms of it internally, we need to sort of audit and review the life cycle, and then we'll go out again and sort of let colleagues know with kind of what we've done and what we plan to do going forward. And the colleagues are really curious to know, so they ask how we're getting on with it all the time. They kind of hold us to account really around it, which I think is fantastic. Yeah.
Excellent. No, great news. And have you had to make many reasonable adjustments for interviewing or offering disabled people work?
Yeah, we have. I think a sort of a typical one for us would be supporting colleagues with long-term mental health conditions. There was one in particular where somebody had actually been, long-term unemployed, suffered from anxiety. And a lot of the time we found sort of taking a common sense approach with it, really. So and talking to the candidates and what would help them. So we buddied them up with a particular recruitment consultant that they could talk to and they could build a bit of a relationship with. We provided them with the questions from the interview beforehand so that they could prepare, and kept the interview as informal as we possibly could, and then really thought through the induction quite carefully, buddied them up with someone, made sure that we paced it appropriately, and they were really clear about kind of what they needed to do and when. And it's gone really well. They're absolutely blossoming.
It sounds like you're having a fantastic journey, Andrea, so thank you for sharing. But my final question, have you got any top tips to share with other employers who are thinking of joining the Disability Confidence Scheme?
Well, I would say just go ahead and get on with it. So I thought I came at it from quite an uneducated position, and I thought it was going to be really onerous, and it wasn't. It was really easy. And Seetec really helped me. So I think they just kind of gave me the confidence and sort of focused me a little bit, and then they held my hand to give me the courage to go ahead and do it. It's been incredibly easy at Sustrans. So we're just sort of pushing on an open door, but I would say it's really important to engage with, from the top to the bottom of the organisation, some key stakeholders. So one of those would be internal comms for us, internal communication group. Really important to get those guys on board. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, we've got more work to do around this, but I would say just sort of training and developing line managers, because you can put some fantastic things in place, but unless they're kind of lined up and got the confidence and the skills to put some of that into action and support their colleagues, then it will sabotage your plans.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing that with us today, Andrea. And thank you. I'm sure you'll all agree that was a really interesting insight for some of an employer just embarking on their disability confident level 1 journey. I'd like to warmly welcome our next guest to introduce Kathy Griffiths. Kathy is the Gem Project Navigator for the Forest Voluntary Action Forum, apologies, getting my words in a twist there, and she's based in Cinderford in Gloucestershire. So welcome, Kathy. You're a level 1 committed disability confident employer, aren't you?
That's right, yes.
Yes.
The start of the journey. So we're based in the Forest of Dean. I'm just a regular team member, and I noticed that our level 1 was due up for renewal again. And so my manager and I had a discussion about how can we make it real and make sure that we've got momentum forward. So we have renewed at level 1, and I'm just going to talk very briefly for about 10 minutes about what we've done to already make sure that it's much more real for the organisation.
Over to you, Kathy.
So I see my slides, but very tinily. So excuse me if I'm squinting. So next slide, please. Okay, so I might have to do this from memory because I'm not really able to see my slides on full screen, but I will try and work that out while I'm talking. So we're a small team of about 20 people, and I did these are extracts from the presentation that I did for my team, knowing that people learn in different ways. So this was the visual bit. So I presented that we were going to have a team chat about where we are now, which is level 1, and where we would like to be and how to get there. So I had everybody's attention with that slide. Next slide, please. So then, just to set the scene, I described some of the benefits of the scheme, and I was really emphasising some of the things that I'd really explored with Jane Forrest about the benefits, not just to the organisation, but also to the local community. We have a real passion at FVAF for representing our local community. So that was a very important starting point for this team discussion. Next slide, please. So that's still so that was the benefits that we went through. Next slide, please. So for people that liked the stats and the data, I had a look at our joint strategic needs analysis, and with this slide I was emphasising the data that we have, the rich data that we have about people who have lived experience of disability and mental health challenges in the Forest of Dean. But I also pointed out that the JSNA is, it comes across as quite deficit based. So next slide, please. I was emphasising that this is a strength-based approach. It's about tapping into the skills and the talent of people in the community that have experience of disability, and that by being more inclusive and making reasonable adjustments that support a lot of people, we can support ourselves as a more effective team as well. So at this point, the whole team was absolutely engaged because this is bread and butter to them. Next slide, please. So then I was giving some of the national data and research about why should we be interested in the Disability Confidence Scheme? And one of my points of emphasis really was it's far more than an award and steps that you go through. That I was talking about the proven results from all the research that I've seen, some of the examples being some of today's speakers as well. Next slide, please. So here, just to whet everybody's appetite in the team meeting, I was really emphasising that we're not starting from scratch. So you can see from this slide that we're a real grassroots, practical organisation that is passionate about empowering other people. Well, in order to do that, we need to represent our community and learn from those around us. We also already have members of the team who have lived experience of mental health challenges, of disability, both visible and invisible. And so in our team discussion, we were really talking about inclusivity in its widest sense so that we represent our community. Next slide, please. So here for the practical people in the team, I wanted to, without saying too much at this point, I wanted to emphasize that this presentation of mine and the discussion was action focused. So I suggested our next steps, including writing down a strategy and talking to our trustees and our local community, and marking down for us what the steps would be to move forward from level 1 through to level 2 and to meet our aspiration to be a model for the community. So then, next slide, please. This is my final slide. So I moved through these slides quite rapidly to keep everybody's attention. And then we had a fantastic team chat. And I just want to end on some of the comments from the team. The CEO said, this discussion has highlighted not just what we do already and the team's fantastic commitment, but a drive to build stronger foundations. And we'll plan it together, we'll do it together, and we'll make sure we have a sustained approach to being an inclusive employer. And members of the team said, I love that our approach won't be tokenistic. Let's keep it that way. And somebody else said, let's be proactive rather than reactive. And finally, another team member said, it's really exciting. This will inform our offer, not just to our own staff, but to local volunteers and to young people in our youth association. So that is just a flying example of how to involve a team to make sure that the first step at level 1 is going to be more than a commitment and will end up being the tangible results. Some of the examples that Andrea has given, we've made a start with. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cathy. That was really informative to go through, and fantastic to hear how everyone's very enthusiastic about moving on to the next stage as well. So thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to introduce and welcome our next guest, which is Jo Sandbrook. So Jo is the HR manager at Torbay Council. So welcome, Jo. Thank you for joining us. So you've just renewed your level 2 Disability Confident membership. So what does Disability Confident mean to Torbay Council?
Thanks, Joanne, for that introduction. Yeah, so we've had disability accreditation for quite some time, actually. So it was previously the 2 ticks accreditation that we used to have. And it's always been important to us as an organisation, not only to help us in our business by attracting and retaining a diverse range of people, but also ensuring that our recruitment process is fair and consistent for all. I think by having Disability Confident, you kind of are showing that to others. And, you know, as we've all said today, it's been really important from a retention and recruitment perspective. And so obviously for us, it's always been really sort of key accreditation that we've always wanted to maintain. I think the importance for any business should be to implement a diversity policy. And I guess Disability Confident gave us a framework for that, kind of gives us that self-assessment framework so that we can always measure our actions and evaluate what we're doing. Obviously, that helps to embed our strategy and obviously helps to develop our actions around our recruitment and retention. We feel that by doing this, it helps organisations to define what diversity means and why it matters to business, and it also brings it to life. But also, we need to make sure that we keep it real. We're always living and breathing whatever we're doing in terms of policies. So actually, having something like Disability Confident has been great for us because it means that we keep an eye on obviously making sure that we deliver those actions that we've committed to.
Fantastic. I was going to ask why you think it's essential to have a diversity policy, but you've started on talking on some of those points there. Is there anything else organisations to think about what is essential in a diversity policy to include disability confidence?
Yeah, sure. So, we feel that having a transparent and accessible policy is obviously key. It's an essential building block. You always need to make sure that you have those in an accessible place, which we have an intranet page. We have also an employee self-service portal. So we make sure that all of our policies are on there for our staff as well as our managers, obviously. And we make sure that our policies are obviously available in other formats, and we promote it via our internal comms. It's been really, really key for us, constantly engaging with staff, ensuring that people know that we are a disability confident employer, which I hope gives them the confidence, as it says in the title, to know that we are supportive of them and their needs. So we've got various policies that we have available on our employee self-service portals. So employment of people with a disability, a neurodiversity policy, dyslexia and dyspraxia toolkits. So we do have a range, and our HR teams work really closely with managers and staff to make sure that obviously we are ensuring that the policies are obviously accessible, but obviously that all of our managers follow them, and ensure that obviously if there's any feedback or anything that we need to change, that we are constantly keeping abreast of that.
Of course. And why do you think it's so important to get managers on board with the implementation of a diversity policy?
Okay, so there are many benefits to business. As already mentioned, recruitment and retention are key for any businesses. And by encouraging diversity in any workplace brings fresh ideas, new perspectives, and gives a message that you truly value the difference in people. I think having this perspective helps to develop your talent pipeline, as we were saying at the start of the presentation, because if you employ a range of different people, you have a range of different skills, which means you can be much more competitive and adaptable as a business. So it's important that managers understand this, so that their investment in training and development is key in helping them to understand, but also ensuring that we have the right skills to be able to support people with disabilities in the workplace. That's really important. And equality and diversity training is mandatory for all of our staff, not just managers, but we're also going to be running some more focused disability awareness courses for managers as part of our diversity strategy. So I believe that Seetec Plus colleagues are going to be assisting us with that when we start to roll things out in a few months' time.
Fantastic. And how do you ensure that you measure the effectiveness of disability confident and inclusion policies?
Okay, so it's really, really important to review the data, the effectiveness, because obviously how do you know what you're doing is making a difference unless you measure it and you evaluate it regularly? So I think it's important to review your workforce data, to see who's applying for your jobs and also who is recruited, so that by doing that you can introduce equality monitoring at recruitment stage. That's what we do, and I think it's really important that any business does that, again, to show that actually you can have all the brilliant policies in the world, but actually you need to show that what you're doing is make a difference, and the only way you can do that is to go back to your data and look at you and measure your performance. We also run regular staff surveys as well, so picking up feedback from our staff to understand motivations for their happiness, unhappiness, general well-being. It's really important to take a temperature check of the workforce to understand how people are feeling, and this also hopefully helps them to feel genuinely included and supported in the workplace. And, you know, it's important that employees see themselves reflected in the organisation. You know, they are the ultimate benchmark for measuring inclusion. So it's so important that we listen and we hear and we take feedback from their experiences.
Really important, some really wise words there. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Jo. Thank you so much. I really appreciated you coming along and sharing your experiences. So a short break now from us talking. I'd like to introduce a short video from Urban Cleaning. The video is showcasing some of our ex-participants and some of the employees of Urban Cleaning, showcasing some of their good news stories about how they've overcome life barriers and overcome recruitment barriers. And while it's playing, I'm going to have a glass of water, I think. So enjoy.
My name's Stephen Binfield. I'm the manager of Urban Cleaning, and I oversee all the day-to-day and running of Urban Cleaning Limited.
Hi, my name is Dave. I'm a professional cleaner, but then I also do maintenance, tipper work and labouring as well. So I've got many roles with Urban Cleaning.
My name is Kane. I'm a commercial cleaner for Urban Cleaning Limited.
My name's Jeff Squirrel. My job role is driving the tipper van for Urban Cleaning.
So for us, it was a way of tapping into a market that we didn't at first realise existed. We as a business, like most businesses, struggle to recruit staff and good staff. And then by being made aware of Seetec, and after 6 months a year, I realised that there was a massive market of people that were willing to work but just needed the chance to do the job with some adaptations, and that enabled us then to have an easier way of finding recruits and growing the business, and that's the reason why we chose Seetec Plus.
About 6 years ago, I nearly lost my leg in an accident. So I had to have multiple operations on my leg, and so it's very close to it being chopped. So the job centre put me in touch with Seetec, and then that's when I discovered about Urban Cleaning. Yeah, they were really considerate. You know, they understand. Like, I was struggling to walk. It was very painful at times. So they were understanding. Seetec and Urban Cleaning was very understanding. But since I've managed to gain work, it's made my leg even stronger because I'm on it every day. So it's a good thing. It's really, really good thing.
Well, in the past, I suffered from mental health disabilities and that sort of thing. And I found it hard. And I like, you know, getting out there, getting myself out there, you know, doing different things and that. But then since I got in touch with Seetec, what I got introduced to by the job centre, they were absolutely brilliant. They got me in touch. They got me doing so many courses, and they got me just doing all sorts of things.
I've had a few problems in my past, and a lot of people didn't want to give me the opportunity to prove myself. I've worked for a lot of companies. I've got a lot of different certificates for different things I've done, but no one was willing to give me that chance. Steve's given me the chance and been happy for 10 months. I've had 2 people from Seetec Plus, Jane and Hannah. They both went out of their way to help me. They found this job, set up the interview, set everything up. I had the interview, and I haven't looked back since. Literally, this was the one job I was offered. I took it, and everything's gone smoothly.
Just be very understanding, you know, because everyone's got complications one way or another if they have got disabilities. Just understanding, and that person, you give them a chance, they will step up to the role.
Yeah, just be friendly and open, really. You know, so you got to understand that everyone is different, and you know, you just got. Some people find it harder to adjust.
There's a lot of people out there who aren't given a chance to work, and a lot of people would like to work, whether they come from bad backgrounds or bad education. A lot of people are more than willing to actually learn and do everything they can. And they're not given the opportunity when they haven't got anything to help them forward. A lot of people can't even find people like Seetec Plus. So the job centre done me the honour of helping. Without that, I'd probably still be looking for work now.
Okay, and welcome back to us. Just before we go a little bit further, just to apologise, a technical fault behind the scenes did mean that our interpreter couldn't hear that video. So our sincere apologies that wasn't interpreted at that point. They're fixing it to make sure that we run the rest of the conference smoothly and without the fault. So apologies for that one. I'd like to introduce our next guest, Karen Holdsworth. Karen is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Lead for South Western Ambulance Service NHS Foundation Trust. So welcome, Karen. So Karen, you're here today to talk about being a Disability Confident Level 3 leader. Yes?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Well, thank you for joining us. So what does being a disability confident leader mean to your organisation, and why did your organisation want to progress through the Disability Confidence Scheme?
So it actually means an awful lot to the South West Ambulance Service. Like Torbay Council, we were involved in the double tick scheme previously, and we were awarded the Disability Competent Leader status originally in 2019, and then we reapplied in May this year. And the reason why we did that is because it actually has benefits to our organisation in terms of inclusion. It makes us visible to the community that we serve in terms of actually saying we are available for employment opportunities, and actually it makes us stand out amongst other opportunities out there for people, and it makes people realise that actually we are approachable. We will give that guaranteed interview scheme, and we actually try and actively practice what we preach. We don't get it right all the time, but just to give an example, I'm the Equalities, Diversity and Inclusion Lead. I have an assistance dog. He comes to work with me. You know, actually, this is a process of identifying people with disabilities that actually want to work in the ambulance service. You know, the ambulance service are committed to supporting people with disabilities throughout their employment and to grow their careers with our organisation. We are an inclusive employer. And we try and provide those opportunities across a whole range. It's not just frontline paramedics. There's vaccine staff, there's 999 call handlers, there are estate staff. You know, there's a whole raft of, you know, we employ 5,500 people. There's a whole raft of opportunities there. So it's about getting that message out that, you know, there are a vast amount of opportunities.
Fantastic, thank you. And so what do you think have been the main benefits of being a DC leader?
So we serve a community. There are 22% of the community are disabled, and it's actually about getting that message out that actually we want to be part of the community, and actually showing that. Sorry, Giuseppe's just decided to have a bit of a shake up. So showing the community that we're actually part of the community and that we serve the community is really important. And it's also about stating, you know, hey, let's talk about disability. Let's not be frightened of that conversation. And people are having those conversations. You know, people do get nervous about talking about disability. They don't necessarily understand all types of disability, but it's about having a conversation and saying, hey, I am disabled, but it's also on the other side of it saying, what can I do to provide those reasonable adjustments so that you are able to be included in the workplace and actually, you know, benefit from being in the workplace as well. Also, line managers are asking more questions from the EDI lead about actually what type of reasonable adjustments, you know, can I make to make it more reasonable for people to come into the workplace. You know, what sort of things, you know, should I be providing? You know, what sort of things are available? Because actually there's an awful lot of misunderstandings there. Also, we've got staff networks up and running, which are really, really good at sort of flagging up some issues as well. So actually the disability confident leader status has actually provided an opportunity to review our practices and actually go through all the different stages and take it forward, and actually identifying some of the things that don't quite work correctly and sort of make the jigsaw better and actually make process work better for staff, to retain them, and also for new recruits coming in, and actually make the workplace more inclusive.
So would you have taken the same approach again? What have you learned through this process?
Okay, so I only started working at the South West Ambulance Service in January this year, but actually what the renewal process did was actually make us look at all what we're doing, and it's actually sort of made us think about what we need to revisit and do again, and like go through level 1, level 2 and level 3, and actually realise that this is a work in progress. It really is a work in progress. This is not a tick box exercise. This is about a cultural change. It's about a cultural shift, and actually getting people to understand the social model of disability, and actually, you know, sort of taking on board what reasonable adjustments actually are. And it's sort of, it's hard to explain, but actually if you're going to get cultural change, you actually need to have diplomacy and actually sort of make people understand that actually some of the things that need to happen there need to be suggestions from them as well, not just all sort of top down, sort of this needs to happen. It needs to sort of be grassroots ideas as well, and people need to understand how disability affects people's lives. So yeah, that's been the process. So in taking the same approach, I think South West Ambulance Service might have done things slightly differently. I think there would have been more education around certain issues. But yeah, it's been interesting. The renewal process was certainly very interesting.
Okay, so what do you think are the key changes to your organisation and the culture in your organisation now you're a level 3 leader?
Okay, definitely patience, definitely diplomacy. People definitely need to think what you're suggesting is a fantastic idea. They need to think it before you move on to the next phase of what you're doing. However, you as an individual, I mean, I definitely get passionate about disability rights because I'm from that background. I get very passionate about disability rights, and I need to remember my roots sometimes. I have to remember that I have a disability and what was my journey and how difficult it has been for me to get into the workplace and to stay in the workplace sometimes because of lack of reasonable adjustments, and actually fighting for those reasonable adjustments. So for me, you know, learning about that and actually trying to persuade and tell people about that is a really important part of the journey. Also explain to people that you can become disabled. Only 7% or 8% of people are born with a disability. And actually 17% develop disability later in life or throughout life. And actually, so remember, disability can happen to any one of us anytime during life. And actually, so respect, dignity and human kindness are absolutely essential, because you never know what's going to happen. And you know, it's sometimes people forget that they're very, you know, I'm okay Jack type of behavior, and actually that's not very nice, that because you never know what's going to happen around the corner. I don't wish anything on anybody, please don't think I do, but it's that type of mentality that you need to challenge. And also, I think for the South West Ambulance Service, it's very much, you know, that as an organisation, we have achieved level 3. We are a leader, but just because we've achieved something doesn't mean to say that we stop learning and we stop improving and we stop changing things, because actually we don't. We carry on going, we carry on reviewing, we carry on like looking at different aspects of things that we do, definitely. And it's fantastic that we've got this level 3 and we can be passionate and we can advocate and we can go out and say, we've got this, but we still need to learn.
Karen, that was fantastic. I can absolutely see your passion coming through in that segment. You gave us some awesome wise words to live by generally, I think, as well within that. Obviously, becoming a DC leader, like you say, you know, there's a journey there. What have been the challenges so far that you found within this journey?
Okay, I would say the challenges for me, so the South West Ambulance Service covers from Gloucester right down to the Isles of Scilly, right over to Hampshire. And we've got a large building estate. We've got 94 buildings. We've got an IT infrastructure that you would not believe. So for me, it's like when I was like doing the review this year of my colleagues, it was almost like, well, are our buildings accessible? Is our IT is accessibility and usability okay? You know, what's actually going on there? You know, what's our staff turnover like? Why do people leave? You know, so actually for me, the challenges were like, it wasn't just that, oh, we'll get the renewal and we'll, you know, be okay. It's like there were so many questions and I was like asking more questions than I could actually answer. So the renewal was like, whoa. Like, oh my gosh, there's too many questions now. I can't answer them all. So yeah, I really, and also there were so many questions, but actually it was really good because actually it really made me sort of think about actually the next 3 years and actually what I'm going to focus on in terms of getting those improvements and actually how I'm going to work with Seetec Plus and what we're going to do and how we're going to sort of look at certain areas and things like that. So yeah, there was lots of challenges and there are going to be lots of challenges, but yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah,
it's always good if you've got a challenge you can embrace then that's all good. And my final question to you, Karen, I'm gonna ask you one of the questions similar to one of the previous guests. What are your top tips to other employers as a level 3 leader?
I would say enjoy it. I know it sounds a funny thing to say, enjoy it, embrace it. It's one of the opportunities that you get to actually do something really, really positive for to get an improvement, to really get an improvement. You're trying to recruit people into your business, and actually people want to come on. Disabled people want to get a job. They do. They want to work, and actually there are so many barriers for them to find that good employer. If you're doing the disability confident process, level 1, level 2, level 3, and you've got that banner, disabled people will apply to you. I applied to the South West Ambulance Service because they had that logo and that disability confident leader status, because I thought they must be okay. And that's what disabled people look for, because we think, yeah, they must be okay. They've gone through a process. So, and it's a chance to look at all the things that you can do to make things better for people. And it's not just for disabled people, it's for employees generally, because actually, I mean, I'm going to look at the IT system quite in depth with my IT colleagues, because usability and accessibility makes a world of difference for everybody, not just for disabled people, but for everybody. And it's a journey and a cultural shift for everybody, not just for our disabled colleagues, but for everybody. It really is. So that's what my top tips are. Enjoy it, celebrate it, be inclusive.
A fantastic tip. Thank you so much for joining us today, Karen. I'm just going to return to one of our earlier guests, John Beach, from Job Centre Plus. John, as I mentioned before, is one of the disability employment advisors with Job Centre Plus. And John, I believe you're looking to do a presentation on reasonable adjustments and access to work.
Yeah, I was asked to do that. I mean, how do I follow that from Karen, really? You've just said everything I would really want to encapsulate, Karen, as to good practice and really sort of the social and inclusive model of disability that we now have. You know, it's all about reasonableness, and you've made some fantastic points there. So I do have a slideshow about access to work, and sort of I will read through the slides and then sort of elaborate a little bit more on that as to what access to work is and what that might mean for organisations out there and how you could possibly use that. So the first slide, access to work, making work possible. It's Access to Work is a grant that supports people with health conditions or disabilities. It provides individual practical support and advice to help to overcome barriers at work. It helps people with all types of disabilities, including mental health conditions. Access to Work grants may help with additional costs beyond, as has now been discussed, reasonable adjustments. Employers may be asked to contribute towards the cost of one-off support. And I'll just expand upon that a little bit. And as I say, it's a reimbursement grant that supports people with a health condition or disability to get into work and also retain work. So this is kind of coming from a slightly different angle than obviously we're talking towards employers here, but this is for individuals out there who would be coming to you as people looking for work, as people maybe already in your organisation and having difficulty retaining that work. And there is a fund of money, there is a grant fund of money out there called Access to Work to definitely advertise and make sure your employees and everybody you know about it. If somebody's, I'll just read a little bit of the additional information here. If somebody's disabled or have a physical or mental health condition, these barriers can make it harder for people to access work and retain work. And one of the first steps for someone is to talk to their employer about changes that they must make in the workplace to support with their health condition, which is known as reasonable adjustments. So the employer must make certain changes as part of the legislation, equality laws, and known as reasonable adjustments to make sure that a person is not substantially disadvantaged when doing their job. And reasonable adjustments could include changes such as reviewing their working hours, adjustment to their roles, making physical changes to the workplace, like installing a ramp for a wheelchair user or an audio-visual fire alarm for somebody who's deaf. It could be letting a disabled person work somewhere else, such as on the ground floor for wheelchair access. Reasonable adjustments can be a very small thing, but it would make a big difference to that person when it came to certainly retention, or even bringing on the talent that's out there that might need a little bit of adjustment to give them access to your employment. So access to work comes in with additional costs. So it could be providing individual practical support and advice to help overcome the barriers for both the customer and the employer. And I think some of the rest of the points that I've got here actually been ably sort of covered by Karen. So I'll move on to the next slide, please, and I'll read that slide and then add some additional onto there. So there we go. I'm flicking between two different screens here. So I'll come on to what could Access to Work pay for. And as I say, this is beyond the reasonable adjustments that we hope that an employer would put in place. So that would be specialist equipment or adaptations, a support worker or job coach to help in the workplace. It could be a disability awareness training for colleagues. That can be done. And it has been done. A communication support at a job interview or in the workplace. It could be the cost of moving equipment following a change in location or job. It could be travel support to work for those who cannot use public transport, which may include taxis. And an Access to Work mental health support service for people who are absent from work or experiencing difficulties with their well-being due to mental health. Okay, sorry, just a message from the chat there. And customers may be asked to resource 3 quotes, and grants would be determined based on the most cost-effective solution. Again, it is a grant system. Obviously, we'll always look, it's coming out of the public purse. It will always be done on a case-by-case basis by Access to Work. Just as an addition then to the slide, Access to Work is administered by a separate team, a national team. Access to Work advisors would get involved, and it's all available online. As far as I was aware, there was going to be a ticker at the bottom of the presentation with the contact details. Right. Okay. So next slide, if you would. Eligibility. There we go. So just to read out the slide for you. So eligibility, who can get help? To be eligible for access to work, people applying must have a disability or health condition that affects their ability to work. It means that they have to pay work-related costs, so specialist equipment or travel costs. They've got to be over 16, and they've got to be about to start paid work in England, Scotland or Wales. And for the work part of the eligibility, one of the following must apply. They must have a paid job or be self-employed, have a job interview for paid work. There is some extra things I'll talk to you about, and about to start a job or work trial or starting work experience. So that's the slide. Sorry, I've been asked to run through each slide with you. To be eligible for access to work, people can apply for who have got a disability, and as I've said. Interesting around the sort of interview, if you have applicants who are coming to you who needs, for instance, a British Sign Language interpreter, then that could be funded through Access to Work. And certainly if you have somebody maybe who is coming to you, but maybe you want to try them on maybe a work trial first of all, then Access to Work could actually have a look at put into place a support worker and funding that when the person's even doing a work trial with you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so obviously there is an application process to this, and you can do that through the gov.uk website. And once the customer has applied to an Access to Work, advisor will contact them to discuss what help they could get. As I said earlier, there's a team that does that. An advisor may also contact their employers to discuss how Access to Work can help support them. They will not contact their employer until they've agreed this with them first. So again, the employee can get in touch with Access to Work and have a chat with them, but nothing goes into place until everybody's agreed. A specialist assessor may contact you and the employer to assess your needs and discuss appropriate support and provide a detailed report to determine the best support. And you may get an offer of support, which could include a grant. If it does, you'll be told how much you'll get and for how long. And grants are awarded depending on the needs of the individual for a maximum of 3 years and are reviewed annually. There may be an element of cost share depending on the size of the company. Okay. Next slide, please. This is a recent development. I thought it was interesting to sort of have this slide in there. And this is what's been called a blended support offer. Many employers are asking employees to adapt their working arrangements and environments to support disabled people to access these new working arrangements and enable them to retain, return to and move into employment. Access to Work is introducing a new flexible package of support. And the new flexible blended support offer brings together a package of home working support, which can be blended with workplace support and new COVID-19 support to support disabled people. So I know COVID-19 is still ongoing. This is still here. So the blended support offer is 3 strands of dual site working, COVID support, including PPE and social distancing support, and home working support offer. So this was something we were still given as an option for Access to Work, and can help with if people have a health issue and they're being asked to work on a different site or they're being asked to work from home, then Access to Work could look at some additional support for them if everything else has been done up to reasonable standards by the employer. Examples could be assistive technology, office furniture, that kind of thing, to make sure they're able to keep their job. Okay. That's it. This was only ever a flavour of Access to Work. More details are on the gov.uk website. The sort of contact details, I'm not seeing the ticker on air. I think, is that coming up at the bottom there? And certainly have a look at Access to Work on the gov.uk website. Everything is there if you need be. If you have additional questions, then get in touch with your job centre or even through Seetec Plus. and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you
Thanks again.
so much. Thank you so much, John. A lot of information there to take in, so thank you for sharing.
Very dry, I'm afraid.
No,
it's lots of information.
It's all good. And don't forget, if you do have any questions about any of the content today, you can ask the questions on Facebook or WhatsApp or via the chat function, and they'll be answered at the end. So on to our final guest who's joining us today. And so I'd like to welcome Lisa Southern, who is a National Careers Advisor and who is going to do a presentation with us about the National Careers Service. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, just a brief outline, really, so you know sort of what our services are about. I'm Lisa from National Career Service. Just to give you a little background, we're funded by the Department of Education. So essentially, it's a free service and customers can access support for up to 12 months after their initial appointment. So open to all adults in England, age 19 and over, or 18 if you're not in employment, education or training. So basically anyone can pick up the phone and book an appointment. We're a team of qualified careers professionals, so we provide impartial information, advice and guidance and support people back into work and learning. So on booking of the initial appointment, we would always identify any special provisions or adjustments required before that first appointment. So that's something we do sort of straight away. Or do I need to mention the slides? Keep moving the slides. Yeah, as discussed today, UK employers are committed to creating a more inclusive workspace through disability confidence. Sorry about the dogs. So what special advice can National Career Service offer customers? Well, helping understand your legal rights to work, reach your career goals and explore options. We offer signposting and find funding and support, like John mentioned before, with access to work. We can access professionals like mentors, advocates, disability advisors. We can offer graduate support. We help finding jobs, internships, graduate schemes, and we can offer help with jobs training. And we can also, as I said before, offer organisation signposts, anything tailored towards you locally. Right, so what we can offer individuals. So whether you're a graduate, unsure of what steps to take, or you're stuck in a career rut, or you wish to retrain, or unsure how to progress within a company, or maybe you reached retirement age, or you want to go down the self-employment route. It's varied with all the people we speak to, but I just want to emphasise we're not just a careers writing service. We're much more, and we can offer our customers a lot more. So whether you've been off on long-term sickness or you have mental health conditions, you might be returning to work or thinking about returning to work, but maybe need help with that transition. We can help with all of this. So in a nutshell, we can help developing self-awareness. So we can do in-depth skills, careers reviews and diagnostics. We can help people identify their skills and transferable skills. We can help career progression, look at education and funding options, any redundancy support. I said earlier, if you're wishing to sort of look at self-employment, we can help with that. Any interview training or support, disclosure and resettlement advice, online job profiles or any social media such as LinkedIn. We can help with job applications, your job searching, labour market intelligent information, and also review CVs. And all that we discuss, and I say all the list above, it'll all be put together in one action plan and given to the customer, so it's accessible with all the links and you can just refer to it over the year. So how can we help employers? As Karen said earlier, not all disabilities are from birth, so it's something that can have an impact at any of us at all different times in our lives, and we might need the support to overcome, these new barriers. So we offer support with employees who are returning to work and maybe need adjustments to their previous role, as mentioned before, whether that's the hours, equipment, physical adjustments, or just signposting support. We can help with recruitment, we can help with application, interviewing skills. We can help again with education funding options. We do careers health checks. We can upskill the workforce, supporting individuals to explore sort of in their training needs. And we offer advice to all sorts of people, as we said earlier, 50+ workforce, younger people, single parents. And we offer support for people who want to change direction. We also look at redundancy and restructure, and that's something we can support companies with as well. And we also look at the labour market and see what jobs they can apply for and sort of put them in the right sort of training, help with CVs. and just whatever support they need, really. So whether they're in work, out of work, whatever support, that we're there to help, really. Sorry about the dogs. I've had 2 dogs barking the whole way whilst talking to you. The dogs have finally stopped barking now. They were so sorry.
It's all fine, Lisa. It's all good.
Sorry, I ran through that so quickly. They were so noisy. The Amazon man was outside again.
This is what comes with the territory, but it sounded like they were enjoying the content to
I just
me.
felt like I
So
rushed
there you
through
go.
that, so I do apologise. Snapping at my heels.
Oh no, well thank you so much for joining us,
gosh.
Lisa. Hopefully you can go and they'll
There's
calm
2 of
down
them.
now. Well, they are very welcome to join us, so that's all good. Oh well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us and running through that bit of information there that I didn't know as well. So thank you for sharing. I think it's really clear that offering employees training and development opportunities is key to attracting and recruiting new staff, and this highlights the importance of being a lead motivator to retain employees. Upskilling initiatives will help employers tackle possible future skill shortages, address current recruitment and economic challenges, and will bring opportunities for business improvement. Staff development mentoring programme, peer shadowing, targeted training courses can all help to identify pinch points and help employers move organically towards a more inclusive culture. So thanks for joining us today, but we're not over yet. Over to you, if there are any questions and pledges that have come from our audience today.
Hi everybody. That's some amazing presentations today. Thank you very much. We've got lots of questions and comments, which I'm going to read out. Firstly, just like to echo what Joe said earlier. I do apologise about the technical hitch with the video, which meant that we, behind the scenes, including the interpreter, couldn't hear the video. So if anybody wants a link to the subtitle version and you haven't already registered on Eventbrite, please do register and I'll put it in the chat so you can do that and we'll send you a copy of the video. So just over to questions. First and foremost, John from Job Centre Plus, can you unmute yourself, because I've got a few for you. Are you ready?
Yeah. Answer what I can.
Great, thank you. So first of all, a question from Dave. Dave says, would the Disability Confidence Scheme have more impact if it was mandatory, and then we would be able to hold organisations accountable?
Possibly, but I say that's then down to government as to whether they wanted to bring that in as a national law. It was brought in as an addition, and then it took over from the 2 tick symbol, which is always a voluntary sort of disability banner for employers. But again, that would be then down to legislation and bring that in as a law. Which then would, that would be down to then government and what the appetite of the government is to put that through Parliament.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it might change the spirit of it a little bit.
The spirit of it is there because obviously there's the equality, there's the equality laws, which that are always there for people and should be looking after their interests. And if you feel an employer isn't doing so with the reasonable adjustments and everything else that's expected and the social model of disability which we're now in, then yeah, but an interesting one.
It is, and you're touching on a couple of other questions that have actually come in there. This next one, John, I'll keep you on if that's okay, is from Nikki. And again, you've slightly touched on this. Nikki asks, once an organisation joins Disability Confident, are they monitored to ensure they comply? Or could it, in theory, they get the badge and not actually be following any of the commitments?
Well, yeah, because even if you come in as the first level of disability confident, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is reviewed, and if you've got nowhere, the whole point of the first rung is actually have the aspiration of going forward and starting this journey. So if after the first year or so you're not actually gone anywhere, you've just got the badge, you're not on the list anymore, as far as I'm aware.
John, do you want me to come in?
Yeah,
Joy.
Joy. I mean, the employment advisors and my colleague Joy, who's on the call at the moment, she's an employment advisor manager. They actively monitor this.
And also, we would go to those employers if we had part of the Disability Confident Committed is to offer work experience and work trials to people, and we would go to those employers feeling confident that they would be able to offer that service to somebody who has a disability or a health condition. So even if it's not necessarily taking on as a paid job, it would be somebody we would go to use for work experience, knowing that to get to sort of build up those people's confidence. Sometimes, you know, they just need to show that they can do something, and we have got a classic case of that recently where people went along and did some work experience and have been offered jobs. So it's just that the thing that we look at with Disability Confident is us as employment advisors also feeling confident that we can approach these employers and say, could you give this person a little bit of work experience to see how they are, see how they get on? And that really helps the individual's confidence. So yes, it's definitely monitored, but I wouldn't say it's monitored. It's more, we would use it more than monitor it.
I think from what you're saying, it doesn't seem to me to be like something people sign up and then they're left alone for it. It's almost like the start of a conversation.
They're actively brought into the conversation and the journey there, and it's kind of like if you're not seen to be still on that journey, then you're not with us. You don't have the badge.
Yeah. Okie dokie, lovely. I've got another question for you, for both of you. Is access to work funding counted as income for benefits purposes?
No.
No.
That's a definite no.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's nice.
That's a definite no. It's a reasonable. It's above and beyond reasonable adjustment. It's there to enable people get into work. It's not there for people to live on, which is what benefits look at. As in, it's there to help that person do that job. So whether that's equipment or whether that's paying for a taxi service, even in some cases, above and beyond the reasonable adjustments that an employer can make. And no, it's not counted as an income.
That's a really good, clear answer and good to hear. Thank you. Actually, there is another question for you. This is from Leslie at the NHS. And again, you did touch on this slightly. What is being done to promote the social model of disability? For example, using terms like people with disabilities tends to be the medical model. Got any comments on that one?
Myself, I've done talks with my staff, as in the staff that I cover through DWP and on language and disability language. I would hope it would be a conversation that disability leaders are taking forward in their organisation, because that's what it's about. And as you can see throughout recent times, we're going away from sort of just having workshops for people with disabilities and everything else. To actually, we're out there, we're working in the environment, as was beautifully put by Karen. Most people who've developed health issues and disabilities, they're already working. It can happen to us at any time. So to promote the idea of a socially inclusive world where, if you have a disability or not, you've got the ability to get forward in life is surely an altruistic vision of everybody, employer or otherwise. So I'd say for myself, I know I've done talks to my staff. I would expect that being done by other employers as well. Bring Karen in there. Karen's got a hand up.
Oh, sorry. Do chip in, Karen?
I was just going to say that I do a fair amount of disability training within South Western Ambulance Service because we're an emergency service. The front line is very much based on the medical model of disability of airway, breathing, circulation, because it's an emergency service. However, our workforce need the social model of disability. So we have operational staff who are very much focused on the medical model. And then for our workforce, we need the social model of disability. So we have this dichotomy, and it sometimes clashes. I mean, I'm being quite frank here. Sometimes it clashes. So my role as EDI lead is to explain and remind people about the social model of disability and explain, about it, in a way that they get it. Because sometimes, the frontline and patient safety override the workforce element and social model type of thing. So it's actually about, you know, and the training is there. It's well recognised. It's been around for, you know, 30 odd years. So there's no reason why it can't, you know, be used all the time. It's just sometimes the medical model within the NHS overrides everything and people forget. You know, especially I have to say during the last 2 years of COVID, things, you know, just got slightly pushed to the side a bit. Yeah, but I would very much recommend that, you know, the EDI leads within the NHS, very much social model. You know, we're on that campaign. So yeah.
Banging that drum, definitely.
It's very much, Karen, it's about conversation. It's about informed conversation. It's about people being open and honest, and really having the confidence to bring that subject to the fore.
It's being able to ask those questions in a safe space, that to clarify some things sometimes, because actually, you know, in their working world, they're frontline, they're dealing with 999, and then in the, you know, and then they're dealing with staff, and you know, sometimes things get a little bit confused, and they have to switch. And so they need to just clarify things sometimes, and they need to be able to ask questions. Yeah.
I see that as really being a parallel for all employers, really, as have that space for people to discuss and bring everything forward. And obviously, disability confidence scheme, it should signal to staff and should signal to the outside as well that actually you have got that ear to listen to and that ability to air your views.
Thank you. I've got another question now. So Avon and Somerset DPA, interested to know how the organisations we've got speaking today are putting reasonable workplace adjustments in place. Are the job roles on offer part-time, flexible, or work from home where appropriate? Kathy, should we come to you? Have you got like to answer to that one, if that's okay?
Yes, that's fine. So we're right at the beginning of making this journey real. So at the moment we are focusing on our existing staff, and the sorts of reasonable adjustments that we're making are in terms of flexible working, in terms of the physical space when people come into work, to make sure that people have the right space to work in. We're actually in the process of moving office premises, so we are involving the whole team and going to involve some members of the community in making sure that space is completely right. I am going to be reviewing the policies to make sure that we are giving guaranteed interviews to people who meet the core requirements of any vacancies coming up. And also a session for staff on access to work as well.
Thank you. Karen, anything to add?
I'd just like to say we offer a range of reasonable adjustments, so we offer flexible hybrid working, we offer working at home, we offer working in an office. It depends what whether you're frontline background, you know, whether you're office based, you know, whether you're multiple locations. It just depends on what your job role is. So yeah, it just depends on what your occupational requirements are as well, because obviously there's a hierarchy within the legislation. Obviously there's a hierarchy of, you know, health and safety, safeguarding, and then employment law of the different criteria that we need to look at before we can offer those reasonable adjustments. So it's sort of like we do a risk assessment and everything around that. But yeah, we do offer a variety.
Yeah, it needs to be completely tailored, of course, to each and every person, doesn't it? That's the key. Yeah, I got a few other comments here. So Sital, I'm afraid Andrea from Sustrans has left us. Sital asked what were some of the tangible challenges with managers. What were the most common barriers you were picking up? So again, Karen and Kathy, I don't know if you've got any comments on that one. Karen, should we come to you first?
Some of the barriers were lack of understanding, and also because sometimes people have been in the job maybe sometimes a long time, and they had not necessarily had the training to do, they've not had the people management training, and so they're willing to learn. It's just that they've not had the input that maybe they need to have to manage people. So it's actually a case of, well, what can we offer you so that you can better manage the people that you're managing and have that greater understanding. So it's a multiple jigsaw here of actually sort of increasing that mutual respect and understanding all around, and getting the best result for everybody, because nobody wants to do a bad job. It's just sometimes people just think, well, actually I'm not quite sure what to do, so they feel a bit paralyzed in doing anything. So so it's actually about increasing that understanding all around.
And knowing it's okay to ask questions and knowing where to go to ask those questions, that's key as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that actually no question is too daft, like that. Actually, if you're thinking it, then the likelihood is everybody else has been thinking it as well. And actually, just ask it, and as long as it's not done in an offensive way, just ask it, and and then we can talk through the issues, because actually sometimes people just genuinely don't understand, because it's actually out their realm of their experience. They don't know, so they don't understand. But as long as you increase their understanding and their experience, that's fine.
Thank you. Kathy, anything to add?
Yes, I would add a common challenge that I've noticed is from an implementation point of view, the relationship between your written plan of what you're going to do and the actual actions that take place. So for some small organisations, what I've noticed is that the approach to inclusivity can be full of passion and energy and commitment and happen in a really grassroots organic way, but then reaches a point where the organisation isn't able to then take the next step because it's organic and a strategic plan is needed. So that's something that the Disability Confidence Scheme can help with, because as we were reflecting right at the top of the discussion, it gives you a framework. From the opposite angle, having worked for large organisations as well, you can have a really tight strategic plan, but the challenge can be in implementing it if you have the support at grassroots and the support at senior leadership, but you haven't invested enough time in the middle managers, because often that's where the strain and stress of priorities and time and capacity comes. And I think that would be one thing that is really important, is to support middle managers to make this a reality so that it doesn't fall off the priority list. So this has to be central, a golden thread to every single thing that middle managers are supported to do for their workforce.
That's really, really interesting, and to see the benefits that can bring as well. Yeah, thank you both. So just a couple more comments from Dave. Again, until organisations can look at their recruitment, selection and interviewing process, a lot won't change. Project search and project change are still being implemented. And then just a question from Peter. We're a small company in North Devon, writing policies for the business currently. Would you be able to assist in the new ones? Yes, absolutely. What we'll do, Peter, is we'll drop you a message and someone will be in contact with you. I think that's all the comments for now. So I was just going to say that I think the overwhelming thing here is you're not alone. If ever you've got any questions, you like any support, want to chat through your disability confident journey, you can either pop your email in this chat. If you want to keep it confidential, just start the chat with @JaneForrest. It should come up, or send us via WhatsApp, and we'll happily get in touch to give you a hand. And that's it from me. I think it's back over to Jo now.
Thank you, Geraldine. And thank you, everybody, for the questions. And yeah, thank you, I guess, for joining us today, for all our contributors to the conference, and for our interpreters, and everybody that's made this event happen. Thank you once again, and please join us when we do our next Disability Confident event. Thank you.